Hi, I'm Nikki, the Obsessive Bookseller. Welcome to my channel. Today I would like to review House in the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune. Supposedly a standalone novel and going to remain that way, this is one of the most charming things I've read in ages. I'd seen it around here and there about a year ago. I mean, the cover is really charming. It looks like it would be a lot of fun. But then my best friend read it and personally recommended it to me, and she doesn't do that very often, so when she does, I really listen. And then a couple weeks later, another friend independently also recommended it to me specifically. So I'm like, all right, I guess I got to read this. I put a hold on it at the library and then proceeded to decline checking it out for about a full year. And finally, I'm like, I either need to read this thing or just say I'm not going to do it right now because I'm really sick of seeing it pop up every couple of weeks asking me if I'm ready to borrow it. I'm never ready to borrow it. It felt like a really good summer read, so I finally committed to checking it out, and it was awesome. By about the 50% mark into the book, I was like, I'm enjoying this quite a bit. It's about a 4-star read. It's really fun, but I'm not like ready to shout from the rooftops about it. It was decent, but I didn't, I get the hype, but I wasn't feeling the hype. And then something changed. I'm not really sure what exactly sparked the magic, but after that 50% mark, I felt myself increasingly connected to the characters, deeply caring about what happened to them, deeply caring about their story, and that's when I realized, oh, this is why everybody loves this book so much. I went into a lot more depth in my monthly wrap-up than I had originally intended to, so this is going to be a lot more of the same of what you heard there. But essentially, this to me read a lot like the very beginnings of Harry Potter, where you're a muggle being introduced into this world and slowly learning about the magic that exists in it. And it's a very satisfying journey of discovery and wonder. And it's very deliberately slowly paced to give the reader time to completely immerse into that story. Like the first time I read Harry Potter, I was just glued to the pages. And upon the reread, I've read it dozens of times, that beginning part kind of felt like a slog on the reread. Like, I want to get to the point where Hagrid tells him he's a wizard already. But first time, absolute magic, and that's what I felt about House in the Cerulean Sea. I thought it was a lot more slowly paced than I'm normally patient enough to handle, but it really worked in this case, and I wouldn't change a thing about it. Especially since it built a really good momentum towards the end. It was like this gradual build. Now, I am the last person to pick up social commentary in books. I mean, we have the entire Sword of Truth series by Goodkind as a prime example of that. I didn't pick up on any of the social commentary until people told me about it, and I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I could see that. But in this case, a very strong message came through for me about hope. People who are forced on the fringes of society and feel like they need to hide because they are different. I feel like this book does a good job giving those people a voice. It was such a bright light of positivity and hope that I think if you're going through something hard, this book will really put you in a much better mood. And what I loved most about it is the message was subtle and it was beautifully integrated into the story, and you just felt it organically through the characters. And these kids were so charming, so fun to read about. And there are some ideas in here that normally I'm like, that's too ridiculous. I wouldn't be able to just go with it. But you do in this case because the author builds your trust from early on that he's going somewhere meaningful with it. I started out on the fence, evolved into someone who appreciated the story, and then now I'm a true fangirl. I'm a believer. I can endorse this particular book with a lot of confidence because it really did work for me. I totally get the hype. And if you've been stalling on checking it out, go ahead and take the plunge. It's an awesome summer read, and it's truly one of the most delightful things I've ever read. I save my solid 5-star reads for my ultimate all-time favorites, but in this case, it was a close one. So I'm coming in at a 4.5 out of 5 stars. Definitely worth the hype. I wish I'd picked it up a year ago. Now let's talk about other books you might like. And I'm bringing up Harry Potter, not because I'm saying if you've read House on the Cerulean, hey, have you heard of Harry Potter? But more because most people have read Harry Potter, And if you love the sense of wonder and the parts where the Muggles kind of get to like be involved in the magic of this world, then I think you'll really like Cerulean. Don't go in expecting like heavy magic school elements or anything like that. It's not much about that. It's more like the beginnings of each of the Harry Potter novels. And one of my personal favorites, Fablehaven by Brandon Mull. This book is about two kids who go to visit their grandparents who happen to live on a reserve for magical creatures, but they're unaware of it when they get there. It's like all about that discovery process and putting facts together and surviving the dangers and stuff like that. So even though this is a kid's book, it's written with quite a bit of sophistication, almost to the point where I think it would be kind of difficult for younger readers to get into. But if you read House on the Cerulean Sea and didn't mind the lightheartedness of it, I think you would really get into this, especially if the slow pacing didn't bother you. This is a really strong comparison. And this is a series that just gets better and better, and the world building and the sense of wonder just get more exciting. I love this series. I need to go back and reread it for yet a third time. The Floating Island by Elizabeth Hayden, the Lost Journals of Ben Polypheme series. If your favorite element of Cerulean was kind of the sense of adventure and the fun discoveries and some of the kind of non-human main characters, then this would be a really fun pick as well. This is more high seas nautical adventure, but the core writing is beautiful, and it gave me the same sense of wonder and awe. Every Heart a Doorway by Shenan Maguire. If your favorite aspect of Cerulean was the boarding school aspect and kind of getting to know the different kinds of students and their different abilities, this is that with quite a bit of a darker edge to it. So if you're reading a Cerulean for hope, read this one for intrigue and introspection. What's cool about this series of novellas is that each book has something different to offer, so there's a lot of variety within one series. So if one doesn't quite work for you, the next one might be like a 5-star read. At least that's what happened for me. And in fact, if you liked Cerulean but wish it had a little more grit, then this is for you. And finally, Clean Sweep, part of the Innkeeper series by Ilona Andrews. What Cerulean did well was kind of encapsulate this moment in time, this special location that was kind of like a safe haven. And from there, the story elements kind of came to all of the characters. And Innkeeper, this inn is kind of like a way station between portals to other worlds. It's a very poor way to describe it, but the place, the location, had a very similar feel, even though the storylines are completely unrelated. But I also love that in Cerulean, there are a lot of discoveries and sense of wonder, and I felt the same way about Innkeeper. With portals to other worlds, anything is possible, and so it's fun to see like what kind of characters get drawn into the story and who shows up next, that kind of thing. So highly recommend. Some of my favorite authors here, so can't go wrong. And there's my review. This one caught me off guard how much I liked it. I didn't figure I would do a full review on it, but yeah, I had a lot to talk about because I really enjoyed it. And I've been reading such dark fantasy lately that this was like a breath of fresh air. Such a charming experience, and it kind of refreshed my mood for handling some of the heavier stuff. Anyway, I want to take a minute to thank my patrons. Thank you so much for all of your support. Really appreciate it. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope to catch you next time.